a human being is a self-conscious being. Animals are conscious. They are also self-conscious to a certain extent, but not to an extent of making a judgment about themselves. Animals, a dog doesn't go on a dog show or doesn't go on a victory lap after winning the dog show. Right? No monkey sits in an American embassy to get an American visa or a religious visa. It is this human being who's got this capacity to make a judgment about himself or herself. And the judgment generally is, I am useless. In other words, I am limited. Limited to the extent of what this body is, what my senses are, however my mind is. So as good my body, mind, sense complex is, so good I am. This is a sense of limitation this human being has achieved. Born of a certain judgment. The judgment is, I am limited. And this judgment itself, this is why when you know this judgment itself, you can give several examples. Like 3 people used to walk in the banks of Ganga and Rishikesh. And one fellow calls the first one. Hey Ramu! His name is Ramu. He doesn't turn back. He doesn't listen. Then Somu. Swamiji's examples of Ramu, Somu, the names. Somu also doesn't turn back, Soma Sundara. And then he says, monkey. All the 3 turn back to check whether he called me a monkey. Why? If you are not a monkey, why you should turn back? Judgment. That is the sense of limitation that I have imposed upon myself. This judgment is because of one's ignorance about oneself. I am born ignorant. I know that I exist. This is where our Shastra starts. Never don't start equating Shastra with science. Science requires data. For you to prove an equation, or for you to prove anything, it requires data. What data do you have about Atma? Come on. Do you have any data about Atma? Whenever they have to start, let us assume this to be X. That is how you start an equation. Correct? And then you solve an equation. The solution of the equation, if you say the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side, then the assumption becomes true. This is how our general practice of the whole evolution of the scientific world is. It requires data. Vedanta starts with I exist. It's not an assumption. That you exist is not an assumption, correct? This is where the Shastra starts. The Shastra need not come and tell you that you exist. Because I know that I exist. Just because you all exist, I speak. That's taken for granted. But I don't know as what I exist. That is unknown to me. That is what we call as ignorance. As what I exist, I take myself, I exist is clearly taken, and it